All right. Okay, then I call this meeting to order at 10:03. I will read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattiwandawung, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any declarations of interest?
No.
No? Okay. Then we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please? Okay, moved by Joe Pertula, seconded by Wynne. Everyone in favor? Yes. Anybody opposed? No, that's carried then. Can I get a mover and a seconder on the adoption of the minutes of our last meeting? Wynne has moved, Joe has seconded. All those in favor? Okay. Anybody opposed? No, then that is carried. Then correspondence. There have been a couple of items that I have been made aware of, like Joe sent over a couple of documents the other day. We will talk about that when we get to the Tourism Advisory Committee. And I have had correspondence from Sarah King-Head about a presentation that she will be doing for the 50th anniversary conference of the National Trust for Canada. In fact, I haven't included that in the agenda, so I'll quickly speak about that right now. Sarah has been invited to present at this particular conference. Her presentation will be about the Battle of Beaver Dams Park in Thorold. There is a fee charged to presenters at this particular conference. It's $395. Sarah is asking whether the city could cover that plus some of her traveling costs. She's asking for $500. I'm putting this to the committee. I think it would be a fantastic opportunity for Thorold to be basically presented at a national conference. Sarah is going no matter what. If either as a representative of the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals, which she is a member of, or as also a representative of the city of Thorold. So I'm asking you, do we ask council to let us pay for these $500 towards Sarah out of our budget? So can I put forward a motion to ask council to let us spend those $500? Yes, Joe has moved it. Can I have somebody to second? Tom has seconded. Now, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? No? Then that is carried. Councillor, could you ask council at the next meeting?
I'll work with Matthew on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other correspondence items that I am not aware of? No? Okay. Moving on, financial invoices for payment. Have there been any decisions made about who is paying for the designation advertising, which Nick brought up in our last meeting? In the past, the city paid for that particular expense. It comes up at every designation since we are duty bound to advertise a designation in a publicly pardon? Did anybody Okay. Since we have to advertise a designation, this usually didn't come out of the Heritage Committee's budget. And if that is the case in the future, then we will have to include that into our budget requests. So I'm going to put it to both you, Nick, and maybe to you, Matthew, to decide which way this is going to go in the future and who is going to pay for it right now.
I did speak with Morgan after the last meeting just about how to handle the item like that. And the only update I had is that they were looking into it to see the best way to do that. So I suppose stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have an update soon on how that'll be adjusted, if it's, well, for this one in particular, but also in future ones going forward, if that's something that's included as an item in the Heritage Committee agenda or budget, or if it's something that is a separate item in the broader planning budget or something. So not much of an update other than stay tuned.
Was muted.
Joe, can you hear us at all?
Obviously not.
Hello, Tim.
We can hear him.
You cannot hear us, obviously, right?
Right now I can't.
Can you
I
hear-
can hear you.
Oh, okay. I can hear Win.
Can you hear us at all now, Joe?
Okay, I can hear Matthew there.
Can you hear me?
You're an echo right now.
It's because you're put the phone down. Can you still, Anna, try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah, because everybody went dead.
Yeah, all right. You had a question.
Yeah, I was just, I went through you, Madam Chair. I wanted to respond to Nick there. See, this is a notice, a public notice that the city puts out. It would be no different than if they put out a notice for planning applications or people that might want to rezone their property, and a notice gets put up on the front yard. Then the city would post a notice in the newspaper. So this just falls within all of that. It's never been the responsibility of any of the committees to take care of notification like that. So I think it can be easily resolved. And in the past, as Councillor O'Hare and I met with the mayor one time, and he said that the city covers that expense.
Matthew?
I agree. I think too there's an easy way to have a solution. I just need to make sure it's accounted for in the right way, and then that's the way it's done carrying forward.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I agree. I think part of the comment is prices for some of this advertising and notices have certainly gone up post-pandemic, and since perhaps the last time we've even done a designation. And what we're seeing is there hasn't been an accounting of this in the planning budget or in any other city advertising budgets to date. So there would need to be a budget adjustment. So the understanding was that this was part of the Heritage Advisory Committee's budget. Going forward, this is something we definitely need to account for in the overall budget, whether that lands as part of your budget or as part of the planning budget. In either scenario, it will need to be accounted for depending on how many designations you wish to do for 2024, that the appropriate advertising budget comes with that as part of the overall request to council.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Beaver Dam's book sales, I assume there have been none, and we've already decided what to do with those books once the Lock 7 that's what we had said, that maybe we would put them into the Lock 7's tourist center for to sell them from there.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Okay, good. Moving on, properties, Beaver Dams Church, any updates? Linda is not joining us today. Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we had the Strawberry Fest at Beaver Dams Church, and it was a great success. Everyone was invited to come in and see the completion of the paint job on the inside, and it's really quite wonderful. Hopefully, anyone who hasn't had a chance to get out to the church will be able to attend a future meeting or event and be able to enjoy what fabulous work has been done there. The whole purpose of, or one of the main purposes of the Strawberry Fest was to raise funds for the washroom facilities that are still in the works. There's a survey that has been completed around the property because to this time, they didn't know the official boundary of what was Beaver Dams Church property and what was city property, and that's key in terms of where the placement of the washroom will be located. So that is still to be determined. The surveying, I understand, is complete. They're just drawing up the paperwork and all the appropriate drawings and maps that'll go with that as well. So that's a quick update on the church and all the great work that has been done there by countless volunteers. Really fantastic work has been done there.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thanks very much. Stone Store renovations on the exterior are ongoing. I haven't heard any news. Joe, have you heard anything from John Nally?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, he did speak with me on the phone the other day. He was just, he had forgotten the name of Kroll and Sash, Bill Rizzo, who had been recommended for the front door. So I gave him that, and Leslie was going to reach out to Kroll and Sash and see what they could get. I indicated to him that the doors that he would want aren't in stock and that they are made to order. So you'd have to take that into consideration, what kind of a lead time he'd be looking at, but he was going to follow up.
Okay, great, thanks. Installation of history plaques. I have finally been able to connect with the owner of the Dobie House. We have decided on a spot where the stand and the plaque are going to be installed. However, from what I understand, city workers are still trying to find both the plaque for the Dobie House and the Stone Store, which are somewhere in storage, but we haven't located them yet. Once we have, then the Dobie House plaque can be installed. With the Stone Store, we'll wait until exterior restoration is complete and install it then. The outstanding planning items, Monroe House, will be deferred to a later meeting. Now, the website. Mark has sent me his draft for the updated Heritage website. This website will be very short-lived, since at one point it will be incorporated into the city's website. However, it is now up to date with regards to all the designated properties, and there were also a couple of inconsistencies on the info on one or two items that has been corrected. And basically, this new version is ready to be posted. To me, Joe, have you had a chance to look at Mark's draft?
Through your Madam Chair, not yet, but I did receive it. I just hadn't had a chance. I've had a bit of paperwork to get caught up on lately.
It looks good. It's basically, it uses all the updated photos. Some of the old website had extremely old photos that showed the properties in a way that they don't really look like anymore. And it has also obviously added some new ones. We kept it very simple at this point, since this website will be short-lived. And I suggest that that I give the go-ahead to Mark to post it, so that the current state of Heritage Thorold is online. And then, Matthew, whenever you are ready to change that over, that will then be up to you, I guess. All right. So is everybody in favor of having that? Yes, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering if maybe we should allow perhaps a 7-day period for all of us to have a look at the website and proofread it, just to make sure that there aren't small errors that may have been missed. Each of us might spot something that someone else has neglected to see, and it just might be wise to do that first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good idea. Matthew, if everybody looks at the website by themselves and basically has no issues with it, can I then tell Mark to post it, or do we have to have a motion passed that we all agree that it's in order?
No, a motion wouldn't be necessary, Madam Chair. I think as long as you have the general agreement that the content is correct, that would be enough.
Okay, then let's leave it at that. Have a look at it and see whether you have any issues with it. And if not, then I'll give Mark the go-ahead. Great. Heritage permit status update. Anything new, Nick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I had met with Morgan following the last meeting just to talk a bit about how the process could look and how it could unfold. So we're going to kind of map out how the process would look, just because it's a bit of a new application process for the city and maybe making things more formal. So that's where we're headed in that. So her and I have a bit of work to do just to map out what the process will look like, and then we'll circle back with the committee. And then part of that will also be preparing what the form would look like. So I anticipate we would have a draft of that. There may be some involvement from the planning student that is with the city now too, so they may assist with some of that. So things are moving. So hopefully we'll have some more news to share next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any comments? Okay, moving on. A downtown facade program. Any applications that you know of? No, I haven't heard of anything. Matthew, would you know that at all? Whether there have been any applications for the downtown facade program?
Not that I've been made aware of.
Okay, all right. Then Tourism Advisory Committee. Joe, you have some updates for us.
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Did your mic turn off? Because I can barely hear you.
No, I didn't. You still can't hear me?
Barely.
It's green, yeah.
And it's very quiet here too. I was just in the middle of typing a message, and then Joe spoke up. So.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's
There
much
you
better.
go. Okay, thanks. Okay, through you, Madam Chair. Bear with me. I do have quite a bit to talk about. Usually the Tourism Advisory Committee meetings don't encompass much. But first of all, yeah, I did have the chair send out some documents. One of them is I hope you had a chance to look at them, the Lock 7 Viewing Center. The matrix sheet that Ken Scholten is presenting. He really covers a lot. I'm really impressed with what he's doing. This is more information than we used to get from Sue Moran. But what you can see in it, in our last meeting, based on this report, if you go to page, I believe it's 11, yes, where it's the top 5 visitor suggestions, there were some motions that came out of these suggestions at our last meeting. One was the water refill station. It was suggested a motion was put forward to put in some kind of a refrigerator / beverage vending machine for the visitors. That was put forward at council. It's going back to staff to find out if there's some kind of an opportunity on other city-owned properties for a vending type machine, which would produce some kind of revenue. So they're going to get back and report on that. Number 2, the more museum-like displays. I put forward a motion to have council direct staff to look into the feasibility of having the Thorold Museum install small curated displays, exhibitions that could be rotated on a monthly basis with a theme, so to speak. So that passed, and it went through council, but I also reached out to Randy Barnes around the same time. He was the former president of Beaver Dam's Thorold Historical Society. Now he is a board member of the museum. Randy indicated that the city reached out to the museum a while ago with the same request. Randy's answer was that when they moved all the artifacts out of the Lock 7 Viewing Center and they moved the artifacts out of the Chestnut Hall, they were only boxed up and not inventoried. So they're all stored in the second floor of the Allenberg Community Center. And to try to put together some kind of a display would be very time consuming, given the lack of resources and help that they have. So he didn't think that something would happen this year, but I read into his message that the museum is looking for a final spot before they're going to inventory anything. They're just going to leave it sitting. But he did say that if the Tourism Executive Committee wanted to meet with the museum board and engage in some dialogue, he said that they would be more than welcome to do that. So hopefully we can get something in there to fill the bare walls to give people something to talk about and ask questions at the same. Third item here is a motion that went forward, and this goes back to a meeting that Madam Chair and I had with the executive of the Community Events Committee. We met with Tony Vandermas and Marcia Capola. Marcia's proposal was putting on heritage walking tours. So you can see this list of what she's looking at. She was looking at something as a test run possibly in August. It looks pretty extensive. The only item I have a question on would be the QR codes being used on the history plaques in front of the houses. Not all of them would really be accessible. You've got some houses where the stand is behind a picket fence or a hedge, or so I don't know if that's really a feasible idea, because if you want to access them, you might be encroaching on the homeowner's property, which I don't know if we really want to get into that. But everything else that she speaks about looks pretty good. I would suggest, Madam Chair, that you and I meet up with Marcia and Tony in the next while to get a status update from her to see where she is with this particular project. I know she's going to come back to the tourism meeting. I believe we meet around the 10th or so. So we've got some time just to sit down and have a chat with her and see where she is with that. But it's a great idea. I can talk about a little bit of that in the next item I want to talk about. And this goes back to the viewing center report, and it really focuses on Lock 7 and basically the downtown area. And what I'm finding with the tourism committee is they need to think outside of just the Lock 7 viewing center. They have to think about other areas in Thorold, and they don't talk about it when I'm in the meetings. And I did raise Port Robinson, because we got the rider report here, and all it is numbers. It does not give any indication of where the people are going, where they're from, how long they're staying, if they're locals or if they're visitors. But having said that, that is something that it's difficult to do, because the ferry ride really is only about 45 seconds or a minute long. So the operator doesn't have that much of an opportunity to ask questions. So I went down to the ferry. I've been down there twice, and I've talked to Rosanna. She's one of the operators. And I got to tell you, she is one fantastic ambassador for Port Robinson. If she gets the opportunity to talk, she talks. And she goes out of her way. At the West Ferry, the girls have planted flowers. They've got cherry tomatoes planted. They really want to make the experience pleasant. She tries to get an understanding of where the people are from. Last year, she was keeping her own notes on where people were from and where they were going if she had the chance to. But it wasn't something that was officially recognized by the tourism committee. So I look in the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan for different recommendations, and I think we see a lot that are really good that just haven't been implemented. And one of them that's recommended that that I think the city should really look into. It recommends using the Darlene Ryan Community Center as a visitor center. It has washrooms, running water. It's only about a 2-minute walk from the dock. And I could see the city getting involved in some kind of a pilot project where they might want to move forward next year, possibly having it open on the weekends. I don't know how they could really staff it. In the report, it is recommending volunteers. I don't know if that can fly, but at least we can establish some kind of visitor demographics. And I also reached out to Debbie Barnes. She's involved in Port Robinson Proud. And this is a neighborhood group that self-promotes Port Robinson with community events. They try to get recognized by the city for different initiatives, but they seem to be brushed off. So I think with me getting engaged with the Port Robinson Proud people, I could possibly provide some representation for them on the Heritage or the Tourism Committee. And Debbie told me something really interesting one day. There was a couple that she saw walking in the East Side Park, and they seemed to be a little lost. So she approached them. It was a young couple that they were Americans, and they rode their bicycles from Jellystone Park, which is over McLeod Road area at the QEW. They followed a bicycle route that's not part of the Circle Trail per se, because it's not a path, but it's marked out as streets that you have to drive along and get you to Port Robinson. So Debbie wanted to know where they were going, and it said they wanted to see Lock 7. And she told them that there was a ferry they had to take to get across the canal. Well, they were all excited. They got up to Lock 7 eventually. But this is what we're missing out on, I think, because nobody knew. I went down to Jellystone Park. They don't have too much information about Thorold. The route is extremely hard to find when you go Googling it, but I did happen to find it on this City of Thorold website. So that's one area I'm looking at that I'm going to raise at the next meeting about the Darlene Ryan Community Center. The second one is another recommendation out of the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan, and that's the establishing of a parkette at the West Side, the Bridget West Side Ferry Dock. Right now, there's a park bench. It does not look attractive when you drive up to the end of Bridge Street, where the ferry dock is. There's a Johnny on the Spot, a chain link fence. The Johnny on the Spot is for the staff that operate the ferry. They really could use some kind of a parkette with a picnic table that would provide some kind of a resting spot, because it is quite a distance from Thorold that you've ridden without any amenities being offered. It does recommend providing a storyboard for the parkette, a pavilion, something that would give a little bit of information, possibly a map of Port Robinson that would outline the heritage properties that are within Port Robinson, so people could understand there's something on the other side that they can go visit. They could certainly post a story about why that ferry exists, that the Steelton wiped out the bridge in August of 1974. The Port Robinson Proud Girls do have some banners down there that show pictures of the ship ramming the bridge, but when I look at what I've read in this Parks, Trails, Recreation, and Master Plan, Port Robinson has some opportunities to really get some exposure. So these are two issues that I'm going to raise at the next meeting. Hopefully I can get something going, and I'm going to recommend that in both initiatives, both motions, that Heritage Thorold be consulted for input, and that for the parkette, I'm going to recommend that the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee also be provided an opportunity to provide some input on that. So I hope I didn't go on for too much, but that's it for this particular report. Any questions?
I actually would like to add something that you could bring to the Tourism Committee. Why not combine the ferry opportunity with walking tours through Port Robinson? That would, I know that the Age Friendly Committee is bringing up sort of local walking tours just sort of to promote community involvement and inclusion. We have our expert on Port Robinson sitting on the other side there. He is providing information for that. Why not also talk to Marcia about having a Port Robinson walking tour? There's a lot of historic homes there, a lot of history. They also have a designated lock, like we will have on Saturday. And it's a fantastic day out to go to the ferry, take the ferry over to the other side of the canal, then do a little tour of Port Robinson. There's even a bar there where you can go and have a little snack and a drink before you go home again. Yes.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that I did have that in my notes here. I just I overlooked that. I did want to raise that with Marcia, that there is that opportunity. And yeah, this is all part of raising Port Robinson's profile, because I mean, I've been down there for every designation, and the tour would be very short. Unfortunately, the Bridge 12 pub is temporarily closed.
Oh.
I guess they've really been struggling.
Yeah.
The business is up for sale, but not the building. So hopefully somebody can come in and take over. It's unfortunate that this is a bad time of the year for it to go down. You'd think it would have enough people to support it, but that really is the only meeting place, I guess, so to speak, that the locals have, and it would be a good place for the tourists to stop in, where they could get the community perspective on the history of the town.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Absolutely.
the tours. I will raise that. Something else I had raised at the last meeting that I didn't really get too much response from, and I'm going to keep at it, is with the proposal that we made to Marcia and Tony. Remember, I talked about the heritage banners, the people that were of significance to the history of Thorold, that we could have banners made to put downtown, and that would free up probably some of the Prince of Wales banners, which would allow us an opportunity to probably put some Prince of Wales banners down in Port Robinson as well. Right now, they've just got faded flags on their posts with nothing that really speaks to the people of Port Robinson themselves. So that was another thing I was going to try and raise too.
Okay, good. Anybody else who has some comments? Yes, Win?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Joe and to everyone, really. A few things that you mentioned, Joe, that I want to touch on. So you mentioned the Lock 7 Museum. So right now you said the walls are barren and we need to spend some time to kind of unveil everything that's buried in Allenberg Church. I'm wondering, as either like an interim approach or like something that maybe could be put up there permanently, there's this really amazing community page on Facebook called Heritage Thorold with over 4,000 community members, and you see frequently that they post things like Cloy and Sons convenience store right across from Lock 7. There's images from the 1940s, and there's images of the Lock 7 back in the day. So I'm wondering, could it be worthwhile to reach out to, the owners of the photos or the admin and see if there's at least something that we can put in the museum in the meantime, because it shows exactly where you're standing. You can see what the store used to look like, or you can see what the bridge used to look like. Would that be a solution?
Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to Win. Yeah, I believe Marty Irving is the moderator for that site. He used to be a Heritage Thorold committee member. I do think I have his contact information. I could reach out to him and see if we would have the rights to extract from that site. I don't think there's any ownership problems, because these are people. Councillor Handley is always doing posts there where he's submitting old photographs, and I recognize a lot of names that are posting in there. So I guess it would be a matter of getting permission from them. I'll reach out to Marty and see what I can find out, and hopefully he is actually the one that I think is digitizing the museum inventory right now. So he would be the man to talk to. Thanks for that, Gwen.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
It would
okay.
change the look of the place right away.
Yeah.
Exactly. And through you, Madam Chair, one more thing, concerning the demographic information that we receive from the viewers that go into Lock 7, how do we get that information? I'm just looking to see, like, I have some ideas of maybe improving the process, but I want to know how it works to begin with. Like, do they come in and then is it like sort of like census style where whoever's working there asks them, how old are you? What's your purpose of visit? Any recommendations for this area? Or is there another way that we go about getting that information?
Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to Win. I'll ask that question at our next meeting. And I'll direct that to Ken Schultz. He's the one that has prepared the report, and he is our tourism director.
Okay, through Madam Chair to Joe, that sounds good. I'm thinking just something that we can sort of table, but I'd be happy to see if my company can kind of do like a pro bono like a survey, so we could have a QR code installed somewhere, just whether it's on the door or anywhere, like to hand out to people, and we can collect that data in real time. But the only trick to that would be getting people to complete the survey. So if I can understand the process of collecting it, I can maybe propose some quicker and easier ways to get that information and more information than we're already getting. So yes, please let me know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Win. The unfortunate thing is the timing of our meetings too, which has a lot of lag. You know, I get this report a couple days after the Heritage meeting, and I report 3 weeks later, so you can see it's a 2-week report. So, you know, at our next Heritage meeting, I'm going to get a good 4-week update, which is probably really going to show a lot more information. So unfortunately, this is far from being real time.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great idea, Win. Thank you for that. I read the report from Ken Scholten, some super ideas, really focus on how we can take advantage of Lock 7 and offer a really great experience there. I know that Council directed staff to look into the vending machine refrigerator aspect, but I don't believe we talked about a clean water dispensing station. And I think that's something that we should continue to pursue. Keep in mind, all the people coming to Lock 7, not all of them, but many of them are cycling, walking, and it's just a great opportunity to offer fresh water for their refilling of their water bottles and things like that. I think it's a great idea. So we should continue to pursue that and perhaps also add that to the direction for Council to investigate. So,
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Joe?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor O'Hare. Yeah, in the discussion, I know the refrigerator basically would be a no-go because then you're distributing plastic bottles out of a vending machine, and I don't believe that would be allowed on city property. The vending machine came from the chair, more or less a beverage machine that would have juices and et cetera. But I think in reality, see, the people right now, when they do go in, they're filling water bottles from the sink that's in the washroom. And I think the best option would just be to have, treated water out of a dispensing machine itself, that the company or the city would just keep changing the 5-gallon bottles, that you see in the offices, and go with that. It would just be so much more convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Moving on, Beaver Dams Park lock designation. Well, actually, it's going ahead this coming Saturday, 1 o'clock. I hope to see everybody there. Are there any questions about it? Oh, I have to actually talk right into it? Okay. All right. Again, 1 o'clock this coming Saturday, the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, Lock 25 will be designated under the Heritage Act. Would be great to see you all there. Any other comments with regards to that? Yes, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the city staff for pulling this together. I know we were pressed for time, and just kudos to staff for doing such a fine job and making sure this event is going to happen. So thank you.
Yeah, and I concur with that. Thank you very much. Heritage inventory list. We actually had decided at the last meeting that we would not keep a standing list right now. I would like to bring it to the city, I guess to you, Nick, that should certain scenarios come up, we would list certain buildings on a potential heritage list. But we will basically defer that until there's actually a chance to designate such a building within 2 years. Because what's the point of listing it if after 2 years' time it comes off anyway? So that just for the record. Any other comments with regards to that?
No.
No. Okay, heritage impact statement. Wynne and Joe and I actually met months ago and put some points together with regards to a heritage impact statement regarding the McDonald's that is planned for the corner of Pine and Sullivan Avenue. I have put together a draft for this statement. I basically want to put it to the committee and also to the city to use. What is in that statement will not be popular with council, or at least not with some councillors. Is this already a done deal, this McDonald's, or will there be a public hearing with regards to this? Because what I'm basically asking is, we need council on our sides for all of our projects. And as I said, what is in this statement is not going to be popular with them. I would like to make this statement at the best possible time. Do you have any advice for me with regards to that? Do you know anything about the particular project that we're talking about? It's basically a strip mall style McDonald's in the middle of town. I would like at one point, maybe you can discuss with Morgan and Tara what planning thinks about this particular project. Pardon me?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm guessing that was directed to me.
Oh, okay.
I do know that there was a zoning bylaw amendment for the McDonald's that went to council, I want to say February probably.
Yeah.
So the zoning is approved for that change. And the only change that was required was to add the ability to have a drive-through. So that zoning went to council and that was approved. And then I do know that the site plan process is starting. I haven't seen any formal site plan application. I just know that it's underway. So
Okay.
that's the current status of that project.
All right. So any comments from the committee? Joe, Wynne, Tom, Tim?
Keep our fingers crossed.
How do we proceed? Do we make ourselves, unpopular with council by putting forward this statement, which, from what I get from planning, won't have much of an impact? Or do we just have to say what we want to say? Joe?
For you, Madam Chair, we have to say what we want to say.
Okay, all
We have
right,
to stand. I mean, they may bowl us over, but
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
we
Okay,
have to,
I
we have
will-
to stand behind our mandate.
All right, I will circulate the draft that I have done to all the members, and you can have, and then, comment on it, what you would like to add, what you would like to change.
Sure.
All right, okay.
Okay.
All right, new business. Trinity United Church is on the market. I've already been in contact with Matthew about that and with planning. So far, there is no news as to who is going to buy the property. However, I have heard that there's various churches actually interested in buying the building. I have talked to a real estate agent representing one of the churches. And so there is very much of a possibility that this will stay a religious institution rather than be sold to a developer. If that won't go through and it will be sold to a developer after all, then then there will have to be certain routes taken, since this is a designated building. And I've just briefly talked to Tara and to Morgan about this, what will happen should that be the case. And I have asked to stay informed about any movement on that particular property once it happens. So far as I know, there's no further news regarding that. Any comments? No? Okay. Allenburg Church, there are no news either. I know I was told that the present owner is going to do some renovations. I haven't seen any evidence of this. If anybody notices driving by in Allenburg that there's work done on the church, please pass it on to all of us so that we can stay informed about what is being done to the building. Again, that also is a designated building, and any exterior work has to be done within the regulations of the Heritage Act. Edward Beatty House, we talked about that last time. The new owner applied to redo the roof. We all decided that was perfectly fine. There was a straight repair job that was necessary to do. I think that has actually been done or is presently underway. No other changes to the exterior were proposed, so I assume that that particular repair is going on as planned. I have also checked out the Thorold Library for a research report on the Edward Beatty House. It is there. I was told by the library that some of the reports had been stolen, so they moved them all into a different location away from public access. I went through them. I found the report on the Edward Beatty House. I suggest that we photocopy it and then hand it to the new owner, who should really have a copy of it. That should really have been handed to him by the old owner. I don't know why they didn't have that report anymore. But anyways, Milan doesn't have a report and he should have one. So I propose we make a photocopy of the one that the library has and present it to him so that he has a record of his property. Do we have to pass a motion on that, Matthew? Okay. Flannery House. There's a renovation planned with that house. We have approached Mark Schultz, a heritage architect, to review the plans, which I assume, Joe, that you have sent him a message and asked him to do the report?
Yes, I did, Madam Chair. I sent that early last week, and I haven't heard anything from him. I'm surprised, because if he had been out of the office, he kicks back the message that says he might not be available. But I can jog his memory again, because he did. We were requesting the full review, which would be a cost borne by the homeowner.
Yes. And according to standards and guidelines, as Nick has suggested. So as soon as you have any news, let me know so that I can let the homeowner know. And also maybe Mark should send his invoice directly to her. And then Matthew, can we decide right now that if the heritage architect okays the plans, we are okay with the homeowner to go ahead with that renovation?
Yeah, you could put that motion forward at this time.
Okay, great. So I am personally, while I put it to the committee, if Mark Schultz okays the plans for the changes done to the Flannery House, will we give the go-ahead for this renovation to go ahead? So can I have somebody put a motion forward with that regard? Joe has moved. Can I have somebody to second it? Councillor O'Hare has seconded it. Is everyone in favor of that? Yes, everyone in favor? Anybody opposed? No? Okay, then that is carried. So if the architectural plans for that renovation are approved by the heritage architect we have asked to do a review, Mark Schultz, then we will inform the owner and the city that plans for this particular project can go ahead. All right, next, additional plaques on the cairn in the Beaver Dams Park commemorating the role of Indigenous people in the War of 1812. I would like to ask our council rep to bring that up at a council meeting in the near future, if possible. I think Sarah has already approached Michelle Elise Burnett about finding somebody who can put together appropriate wording for this plaque from the Indigenous community. I think it's something that is long overdue and should really be added to this park. But we will, can you bring that to council and ask for that to be brought forward?
Yes, Madam Chair, I can.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments with regards to that? All right. And we've already talked about an Afghanistan plaque in Memorial Park. The committee was all in favor to allow that, and I haven't heard any further news about that. I think the Legion was going to raise funds for that themselves to up to 50%, and will then probably they will put forward a motion to the city to cover the rest.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Through you, Madam Chair. At the last council meeting, they were supposed to do a presentation, but it was canceled.
Okay, so I assume that will then come forward at one of the future council meetings.
Yeah, it was Ken Smelko who was supposed to do the presentation, but for some reason it wasn't, it didn't go through.
Okay, all right. Yes, Councillor?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Joe. Joe, that presentation was for another issue that the Legion wanted to bring to council. So not the Afghanistan plaque, but other signage. And
Okay,
that will
sorry.
be coming to next council. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments? No. Okay, heritage walking tours, we actually already touched on. Well, we talked about quite intensely during the tourism advisory committee section. And yes, Joe, you and I will get together with Marsha and maybe Tony, talk about that further and get that straightened out.
Yep.
Designation priorities. We have a designation happening this coming Saturday. I have sent out my first group of letters to homeowners, not to every single heritage property on our list. I think I will follow up with a second letter within the next couple of weeks to the particular properties where I've already sent letters. Should there be no homeowners who can be persuaded this year to go ahead with a designation of their property, should we consider to approach the city about, to approach council about another city property to designate as our next project? Probably it's not realistic to think that the designation can be finalized this year. By the time everything would be done for it, it's probably the middle of winter, which is never the greatest time to have a designation ceremony, but we could get the ball rolling and the research done and things like that. The two city properties that could be candidates would be the Beaver Dams and DQ Crossroads, to designate as an Indigenous heritage landscape. And the other one would be the St. John Schoolhouse in historic St. John. Any comments from the committee whether should there not be a city property that, I don't mean a city-owned property, but a property within the city that comes up as a possible designation candidate? Should we approach council about one of those two? Any comments?
Yeah.
That's
Say yes.
That's a yes. Okay. All right. So I will still try and get somebody on board for a designation in downtown, but these two are very worthy contestants. I think, especially with the new Unity Park garden in the conservation area at DQ Road, and also the significant history connected to that entire area that goes far, far beyond any colonial history that we have. It goes way further back. A designation of that particular area as a Indigenous heritage landscape would be something that we should look at. And St. John Schoolhouse is a very small building, but it is also very old and a very early example of a one-room schoolhouse. Honestly, I don't know how many students they could actually teach in that. It's so tiny, but it certainly is, a piece of rural Thorold history. All right, and history plaques for designated properties, that is something that is ongoing. We will see at the end of the year what we can afford in terms of new stands. We still have a couple left over after the Dobie House gets theirs and after this designation in Beaver Dams Park. But if there's room in our budget, we will order some more stands or we will ask the city to allow us to order some more stands, since there's still multiple designated properties who don't have these history plaques. And towpath signage plaquing recognition as per recommendations in the Parks, Trails and Recreation master plan. I have a comment. Did I see a raised hand over there? No? I have a comment with regards to that. Sarah, when she did the research on Lock 25 in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, suggested that the entire park be designated as a cultural heritage landscape. I would be all in favor of that as being a future project. Ideally, I think this cultural heritage landscape should include part of the old canal route along towpath. There are multiple heritage buildings in the vicinity, most notably the old fire hall, which is one of our landmarks in the city. With any luck, and we're keeping our fingers crossed, Thorold will also have a museum along that path in the now almost old fire hall, well, the present fire hall after it has moved. So if we can get the funding and the present fire hall will be repurposed as the Thorold Museum, that would be along that same route. And all of this would fit in extremely well with the Parks, Trails and Recreation's master plan for that area. None of that plan has been implemented so far along towpath. However, what is suggested is would be fantastic for the city. It would transform that entire area. It is an area that is extremely important in the history of Thorold and 19th century development and growth in Thorold. There's not much visible anymore. It's all underground now. Except for the lock in Beaver Dams Park, which we are about to designate. I just have to throw that in every opportunity I get. So ideally, we would look at this project of a cultural heritage landscape to include Beaver Dams Park as well as towpath, maybe down to the old fire hall. Are there any comments to that? Yes, Joe.
Through you, Madam Chair. Actually, the towpath cultural landscape property would extend down just beyond the hydro yard. I believe Lock 23 is under the Book Depot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what they're recommending in the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Plan, although you'll lose some of it with the hydro yard.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not like you can walk down there to the other lock, but it certainly can be recognized with a plaque somewhere along that part of the property that the lock does exist down there. And apparently Lock 24 is right about where the fire hall is, the soon-to-be old fire hall.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
there are some marker spots that we can look at, and then possibly with signage mark some of the where the buildings might have existed that utilize the canal or service the canal or provided goods to be shipped along the canal. So there's quite a bit of potential if you use enough imagination in that area.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. So let's look at that as a future project. I think that would make a huge difference in that area, which is a little bit, well, not Battle of Beaver Dams Park, but towpath looks a little bit barren and not very friendly right now, but that could certainly be revitalized in a great way. Yes, Joe?
If I could just add something through you, Madam Chair. A real eye catcher that Port Dalhousie did at the entrance to the first Welland Canal, they had a sculpture made. It's an iron sculpture. It looks like it's made with banding iron, and it has the silhouette of a horse with the harness that holds it down into the ground. And the city originally wanted to put 3 of these sculptures in, because that's usually how many horses were towing the ships through the locks. But unfortunately, they were pretty pricey for St. Catharines' budget, so they went with 1. But I mean, I'd still look at something like that could be put at Towpath and Sullivan, that would, where it's at the entrance, almost at the entrance to Beaver Dams Park. Reach out to the artist and see if we can somehow scrounge up about $100,000 to get them to make another one.
Well, we could also ask a benefactor to bring that rail car back from Calgary for us and display it along that area. I mean, it is Edward Beatty's rail car, and apparently it's really something. It's just, unfortunately, sitting somewhere in Alberta instead of here. But a revitalization of that area would certainly help. I mean, it's right next door to our Front Street Center, and right north of the park. And if the museum is there too, that certainly is an area to concentrate on in the future. All right, and then lastly, there's going to be a new official plan. Can you, Nick, keep us in, or ask planning to keep us informed when discussions about that are going to be brought forward, and when we can maybe bring forward some comments and concerns?
Yes, I did mention it already when I met with Morgan after the last meeting. So the committee's definitely on the radar. That there hasn't been any news yet. I know that planning will be organizing the updates to that going forward. As you know, the regional plan just came into effect not too long ago, but I anticipate they'll be starting that a little bit later this year. So definitely the opportunities, and I mentioned it as well. So
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
no problem.
Okay, then we can move on to roundtable discussion. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have a number of things I'd like to talk to you about. At the last meeting, I talked about the Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery and the progress that was being made. Well, I can report at this point, the new stone has been installed. I'll refer to it as the new old stone because it contains the original headstone for John Carl, the founder of Port Robinson. And it is there. The family would like to have a dedication, and they would like LACAC's support. They're looking at September the 16th or the 23rd for that particular event, and it is because it is a designated cemetery for the city of Thorold. I think we should get behind it and help out.
Yeah. What is it that they would like LACAC?
Basically, our presence.
Of
That's all. Basically, our presence, and and some not financial help, but some help in the organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. In addition to that, a gentleman by the name of Scott Walton from the city of Thorold really helped us. Did a wonderful job. The site has been cleared, and it looks fantastic. So I'd like to make sure that we do acknowledge his help and his involvement. He's with the cemetery department, city of Thorold. Talking about some of the things for Port Robinson, Joe, that you were talking about in terms of promoting, I have approximately 40 original photographs from the 1890s to 1910 period that I would make available for the city to use for promotion. And it shows the downtown Port Robinson, very early, parts of the lock area, and the working area, the shipbuilding, that type of thing, okay? In addition to that, I was thinking about something when we were talking about areas that we need to designate. We have something in Port Robinson that's quite unique, and we have never talked about it, but we have a fine example of the feeder canal that was opened in 1829. It's the last remnants of the canal. It's very visible, it's overgrown, it's there, it's in a wonderful location. It's something that maybe we should take a look at in terms of the early history of the canals, because it was a very significant part of the first Welland Canal.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. Can we meet up at one point and look at the area?
Oh, walk you through it.
Okay, great. Awesome, I'd love to.
I'd be pleased to host that. Now, also, you're talking about the historical events. In July the 6th, the city has contacted me, and I'm doing a presentation on July the 6th as part of the tourism. It's going to be in the community center. I haven't got any further details other than I believe it's 6:30 to 7:30, and they're inviting the different people from Port Robinson to come in. And that's part of the things that you talked about.
Okay, and where's that, at the Port Robinson Community
I believe
Center?
it's at the community center. I haven't actually had the final details yet, but
Okay.
there's going to be one in July and another one in August.
Great.
It's part of the walking tour, and this is not a walking tour. It's just a sitting down presentation type of thing.
Great,
Okay.
fantastic.
That's about it, actually, at this point. Joe and I have talked about the plaques that are missing and the plaques that need to be repaired and replaced. And Joe, did you have any luck talking to Steve Fulton?
Not yet. I haven't had a chance to reach out to him. I'm sorry, but I will.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Wynn? Nothing? Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think I've said enough.
Okay. Nick, would you like to say something?
I didn't have anything particular this time. Thanks.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else either. Then our next meeting is scheduled for, what is that, it's July 25th, Tuesday at 10 o'clock. It's going to be a hybrid meeting. And if there are no further comments from anybody, then this meeting is adjourned at 11:12.